Warning, this podcast is produced by Metaverse Ventures Entertainment, contains unsolicited and heavily biased opinions which are solely the views of the individuals involved.
Good day, and welcome back to a special broadcast by the UPLAND Down Under podcast. How are we doing this afternoon, Swally Man?
Mostly gruntled, a little bit disappointed with some of the information we've had recently, but we'll get into that in a sec. But overall, yeah, pretty good. We're pretty good. Sparklet's been going well. I've been poaching a bit of that over at the WEB3 site, BitGet, and so taking advantage of some of the stuff that they've gone having, spit it out, that they've got going on over there. So yeah, the price is going down, which is not obviously a good thing, but it is if you're buying. I've been buying, so I'm happy.
Yep.
So
yeah, I checked that out before when I was having a chat with Umbrella Man. 0.06, something like that. It was down to bouncing around.
It got down to 5. So I had a buy order set at 5 cents,
wow.
and it triggered that, and I snapped up a few $100s worth. So I've just had a whole heap of buy orders from 10 cents all the way down to 5 cents, and all of them have been triggered. So if it goes back under 5 cents, like it's back up to 6. If it goes back under 5, I said to Els, like I might have to sell a kidney or something, because all the spare cash that I had put aside and had been putting aside for the last few months has all been spent now. So it's all sitting there at the buy bid account to be bridged over to Upland in the very near future.
Alrighty, very good. Yes, the reason we're getting back together again out of our normal schedule is, as is often the case, just after we get done recording, we go to bed, we wake up, and there's all sorts of news. So on the show this week, we were speculating, is Paris going to come soon or rather than later? It was funny, is that going to be any tie-in with the Olympics, yes or no? We got confirmation on all of that pretty quick, but there was a lot apparently in the Paris announcement that's going to mix things up completely. Now, you digested that fairly well yourself, and there were some things that you weren't exactly happy about. I kind of had a very brief look. What I did see raised the eyebrows, so we'll get to that in a second here. But what did you think about this Olympics thing? So they're literally using the word Olympics, Upland Summer Games, Speed Champions Test Contest.
It's like in the second line of the they haven't shied away from it at all. I'm surprised. Again, I'm not a legal expert, especially in the copyright world and stuff like that. Obviously, got a history of criminal stuff, but nothing to do with legal. I've just heard in the grapevine elsewhere that there has been complications with like referencing yourself to things like the Olympics. If Upland are trying to benefit out of the Olympics, I would have thought there was some sort of issue there. But again, I've got nothing. I mean, if Red Bull, if Sparkle Gives You Wings campaign doesn't tell us anything about where Upland are and what, so I can't say I'm surprised. Like I said, I've said it a few weeks. Like initially, I was on the bandwagon that they would release Paris with the Olympic Games, but then I thought about it a bit more and went, copyright laws and all that sort of associating yourself with something that you might not have the rights to could be a problem. But it appears that it's not. So, I mean, obviously we were getting Paris. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about that. It's just when, and it's right at the start of the season. So bring it on. I mean, overall, I'm super excited for Paris. Obviously, one of the best or one of the most famous cities in the world. So yeah, overall, awesome. Not that we were not unexpected, but awesome and looking forward to it. But yeah, we'll go over some of the finer details of this release and the wording of certain things and trying to understand where and what Upland are thinking about. Like it's got my mind blown. But anyway,
yes, this looks pretty cool. I mean, they're doing specially themed events, race. And it's interesting that this is a team event, not an individual event, and pretty cool prices. You get a badge, you get a whole bunch of UPX, 200,000 each for the members, and a custom team wearable tracksuit. That's pretty cool. Yeah. I like that.
I predicted this. I 100% predicted that they were going to have something at the LaSalle Stadium, which wasn't, I don't think, a bold prediction by any stretch of the imagination. Given that it's a brand new thing in the game, and obviously very Olympic type-esque theme. So it was always going to happen, even if they did or didn't release Paris. They were always going to have this sort of competition. So I'm not at all surprised by that. But yeah, exciting. And like Elslake and I played the game the other week. I personally wasn't a huge fan of it, but it wasn't anywhere near as it was a lot better than I was expecting it to be. And as far as getting involved in the competition, I don't think I will. I don't think I have the time for it, but yeah, definitely something for someone if they're into it. Like, certainly not upset or have any issues with this.
No,
So,
not at all. So
so we're about to
you've
go
read
into
this. I haven't. Yeah, I at whenever I read this when I got up at stupid AM the other Friday morning before I went off to work, I had a very quick flick through. So yes, when is it all happening? Blah 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 blah. This is exactly what Mesme was talking about. Hey, and you've followed up on this a couple of times as well. So this had to be done as part of the Sandbox partnership. It's going to be their official home and neighborhood.
which is awesome. All of this is absolutely awesome. You get more goals kicked by Upland in relation to partnerships made and all that sort of stuff. All this is just positive news for the long-term future of the game.
Yep.
So, yeah, fantastic. Can't wait to see how this works. In the height of the last bull run, a bit of land in Sandbox. Land in Sandbox is extremely different to land in Upland. So anyone that hasn't had anything to do with Sandbox, it's kind of like you need to be like a layer 2 developer to own land in Sandbox. It's all about creating your own unique little game, so to speak, in there. In the height of the bull run, you're looking at $4,000 or $5,000 for a bit of land in Sandbox. I just looked it up before. That's as low as about $300 USD or 450 Australian to get some land. But again, you can own land just for the investment prospect, same as in the real world. You can buy a vacant block of land and hold on to it and hope it goes up in value and sell it later on. 100% you could. But if you're not a game developer as such, owning land in Sandbox probably isn't for you. But owning Sand Token, I still have a little bit left. I sold most of it after I had my gripe with them, but I still own a little bit of it. How much you need, I don't know. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. So I've got an account from when they first launched back in their season 1 or alpha season, whatever it was called. So yeah, well, I'm excited personally to see where this goes and what I can get involved in there.
Absolutely. This is interesting too. They announced the details of their neighborhood, but it says here this neighborhood will be open at a later date. Stay tuned. So I wonder if there's going to be any sort of cross promotion with the initial release of Paris, or whether that's all going to be held off on the Sandbox end until that comes to fruition.
My best guess is they're going to do something similar to what Big Get are doing now, where they'll do the promotion between the two, and as a result of interacting with both, you'll end up with a chance to get a bit of land in that neighborhood. But that's just the best guess. So maybe they're just holding off on this and let the dust settle on the release first, so people don't get confused or something and try and buy a neighborhood that's not even available. I don't know. But again, all positive news, fantastic partnerships, and up for Upland.
Now this is interesting. This part, the offense rouge, or however you say, we're going to butcher names like crazy if there's names in here. Apologies for the French speakers out there. So this will be dropped to land and sand owners. Well, I've got a bag of sand. Does that mean that if I'm going to be able to link up somehow? Yeah.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like, how much sand do you need to own? Now, in the peak of it, I owned about $1,000 worth of sand. That's worth a lot less than that. How much you need, I don't know. Whether you need to stake it on their platform, because on their own Sandbox website, they've got their own staking platform, and you can put it over there. It's all done on the Polygon network. So I'm sure we'll get the details of that in the near future, and maybe we'll have to go out and fork out a little bit of cash to buy a bit of sand if we want. But again, that's going to be to each person whether it's worth doing or not.
Yep. All right. So then we get into the nitty gritty of what is actually going on with the city release. So in an effort to make city openings more accessible, and what were we talking about? Oh, yep.
Before we go into this, I wanted to do a little bit of a disclaimer. So anytime I'm talking about Upland and things that they can do, especially when it comes to time zones, Elslak and I were talking about this last week on the show. Like, my idea is to divide the world up into 3 segments of 8-hour blocks, that maybe an American time zone and European time zone and an Asian time zone, and split sales like your your Block Explorer, stuff like that, into different zones, and you can register for which one you want and buy, blah blah blah. Now, I say anything I say in relation to all this sort of stuff and how I think it's all from a global point of view. Like me, in my personal situation, I have a job for an organization where I work as a casual, and I love that freedom to be able to pick and choose when I work. So I'm always available if I want to be for anything that Upland or any other game or thing that I'm associated with. I play a poker game which is an American-based game. Usually it works out to be between 3 and 6 a.m. Monday mornings for me. I've played that a lot more than I've missed out each week. So for me personally, it does not bother me that these things are at 2 a.m. Australian time, but that's just me and my personal opinion. When I look at these things and what UPLAND are doing, I get frustrated in the sense that I'm looking at this from a global point of view, looking at the rest of the world, not just the one time zone, and wanting UPLAND to focus on the global implications of what they're doing instead of a tunnel vision of 9 a.m. PT time zone type thing. So that's point of view from basically outside the box, looking at the whole thing rather than my own personal opinion. So yes, I'm in a bad time zone. That sucks for UPLAND, but personally, that doesn't bother me on a personal level. So like I was saying, so I'm trying to just distance myself from my own personal to separate myself from the rest of what's going on here, because I've been quite vocal about the fact that there is no consideration given to other time zones by UPLAND, and this release and this information just absolutely boggles my mind. It seems like they're saying one thing and then doing the exact opposite. And
well, it was all about, what did it say up here? In making it more accessible.
More accessible, and this is where I'd love. So this is again, UPLAND in their communication seems to have always been very vague, very open to interpretation. Like 10 people can read the same thing and have 10 different expectations of what they've just read, and this is another example of that. More accessible to all players. Like, what are they meaning by that? I don't understand what they meant, because when I first read that, I'm thinking, holy fuck. I'm not suggesting for a second that UPLAND are listening to you and I and going, well, Ben and Swiley aren't happy, we better start doing that. Not in for a second do I think that's happening, but there are enough people, I think, that are going, well, hang on, like, so sometimes these things aren't really at the best time. Even Americans are saying, like, these sales are happening at lunchtime. I'm at work, I can't get involved in this. Like, I'd like this to be at a different time. I'd prefer it to be at 2 a.m. so I could do it. So I'd like to have some clarification as to what they mean by more accessible to all players, because to me that is such an ambiguous statement that does not make sense to me whatsoever, especially with what comes up after it. It makes absolutely no sense, and that's the bit I have the biggest issue with this release, is that statement.
Yeah, well, if it said fully accessible to all players, that would make sense. If they said more accessible to more players, that would make sense.
But I don't even
all players.
I don't even think the details, and we'll go over why I think this in a sec, but I don't even think the details fit what you just said. Like if they just said we're trying something different, I'd be like, okay, cool. We're just trying something different, not a drama. But we're not. We're trying to make out like we're doing something to try and incorporate, to go away from this narrow tunnel vision view of one country and focus on the global implications of the game, which is what I've been an advocate for the get-go. And the last week's announcements and whatnot have been absolutely brilliant in that sense. They haven't been very good for the Americans, and I feel bad for them that they can't get involved and be, etc. But for the implications of the game as a whole, they're absolutely fantastic and a really bright future. So to me, when they say this, it seems like they're trying to be more a global approach rather than a specific time or specific focus on a particular group.
Hallelujah.
And it's not that at all, not even nearly. In fact, it's worse.
All right, well, you sound fired up. So, like I said, you've had time to digest this. I haven't really looked at it in any detail, so that sounds good to me. 2 days, okay, well, that sounds interesting. Surely they're going to mix that up. Day one will introduce an exciting new feature, the UPLAND property pre-sale. Okay, for the first time ever, 25% of the properties designated for the Paris City Opening will be available for purchase directly from the store using UPX and USD. Okay, I like that. For the longest time, we were suggesting ideas like it'd be awesome if you could go into a city release and buy a pack of NFTs. If you wanted to buy just a generic pack, you could do that. Or if you wanted to spend more money, buy a rare collection pack or something like that. So I kind of like that idea. That's kind of loosely related to that. These properties will be delivered directly. Yep.
mostly of this, I like this
Um,
idea. It's a unique and different idea and different approach. I don't dislike it. The USD one, I question mark on that one. Like, with people have speculated, are we going to have a city release in USD for a while? And this, to me,
Oh,
is
yes.
a bit like is this a first step in that direction, which I don't like. We can talk a bit more about that when we get to the actual pricing of all this sort of stuff, but the rest of it, it's a different concept. We're trying something new. Happy days. Let's try it out, see what it works. Again,
Yep.
the fact that all this, so obviously the time zones are all exactly the same as they've always been. So we haven't changed that up for the world. We haven't divided it into 3 sections like I suggest, which is just me saying it. But when we're saying we're trying to make this more accessible for all players, so from an Australian point of view, or our time zone point of view, we've gone from having to get up at 2 a.m. on Friday morning to participate in a city release to now getting up at 2 a.m. Thursday morning just to see where we are in the queue to buy one of these packages.
Hang on, I think are you jumping ahead? Because I don't see where you're at. Registration starts 9 a.m. PT, so you've got 24 hours to register, and then the sale starts at stupid AM Australian time.
Yeah, so this is for the packages.
So you've got, it's not 24 hours, but you've got, assuming they don't sell out, before our reasonable get up time. So,
well, that's the whole thing, isn't it? Like, we don't know for sure whether that will or not, but what does history tell us about UPEX sales?
Yeah, they get
they're snapped up in a heartbeat, and I don't see why that'd be any different. Will the USD one still be available? Say if we don't get up at 2 a.m. and have a look at when we wake up at 7, 8, 9, whatever time we get up. Yeah, the USD one will most probably still be there.
Yep.
But I have an issue with the USD sale on this, not so much the sale itself, because I'm interested. I'd like to know more, and that's the problem. I'd like to know more.
All right. So it says here the St. Denis neighborhood will not, well, I'm assuming that's I don't know what that is actually. St. Denis will not be included in the pre-sale. How about because?
That's just the well, that's like the Birmingham of the London release. So that's just the smaller cheaper city alongside. So for the smaller accounts that can't afford, 50, 100,000 UPEX properties, you can go over there and grab some French properties for a slightly less price. So,
is that what it is? Okay, so that's not included in the pre-sale, but it's included elsewhere. Okay.
So that was just a normal city release, so to speak, and it'd be like a tier 5 type city.
Yep. Okay. So both the individual Paris properties and the bundles will be available in UPX and USD. Okay, I'm happy with that. All properties in each tier are randomly selected. Yes, that mechanic's well established. Could include both standard and collection properties. Yes, will be delivered directly. Yes. That's all done. All unsold properties after the end of that period will be available. Yep. Okay. Low price property. So what can you get? Purchasing this item grants players one random low price property. Each property is guaranteed to be worth at least the UPEX price. I talked about this with Umbrella Boy. A bundle for one property. Nice. Okay. So 16,000 as the minimum, 1,000. Yeah, you get. By the time we get up, there's not going to be many of them left.
No, if we don't get up at 2 a.m. to find out where we are in the queue for, I mean, let's say we get up a minute before the sale starts. We get up at 2 a.m. to find out where we're in the queue, find out we're 600 in line, which usually what the case is, and that's not, that's just random. So no complaints there. It is what it is. But then you got a 45-minute wait or something like that. If you manage to stay awake for that long, and they stay available for that long, then to buy one. There are quite a few packages, so maybe, but I don't know. I just think multi-accounters and people getting I'm not convinced that people that are in the first lot don't get to buy a second lot before some people get their first chance. I've just felt in the past that that's been a problem, and these UPEX sales, in history at least, have proven to be snapped up in a heartbeat. So if we want to be part of this, and I think you need to be a part of this if you want to be a part of the next day, you need to be involved in this, and you need to snap a property up. And I'll explain why I think if you don't do this, but you want to be part of the release, it's pointless almost being part of the release if you don't do this.
Well, that's a lot of that stuff that's not restricted to the Paris release. Those sort of gripes or those issues.
If we're going to make this more inclusive for all players, why have a timed sale? Why not just go register for this and pay your UPEX and buy the property. Like, why have a time? Like, just limit it one per account. Pick which package you want,
Yep.
and not have a time. So just, I mean, there's ways to do this to make it more inclusive, but to have one set time for the whole planet to do it at the same time is
Yeah.
not inclusive.
Yeah, it's not. Split it up. Make it. There's if there's 1,000 there, make 200 available at such and such a time. As you said, you can only register for one of the. If there was 5 different slots, yeah, absolutely.
But
Right. So
everyone will
mid-price
register for all of them.
properties. Yeah, of course. Even if they have zero intention.
I think you just
do it.
register for what you register once for the sale. Once you get your chance to buy, you pick which one you want, whether you one property or the bunch or the $100 one or whatever. You pick whichever one you want, and then you're done, and move on.
Think,
and
yeah, I think if you register for it, you should have to have that balance available when you register, and it takes it out, holds it in escrow.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So mid-price property, so it jumps from 16,000 UPX to 48,000. Okay with that. A little bit less in the supply. Sure. High price property, 83,000 to 50. All right. Curated bundle. All right. What's this? Purchasing this item grants players 3 random. Okay, so this is an actual bundle.
Yeah.
So 95,000, but of course the sizes, who knows? You've got some kind of chance.
These sales are all fine. Like you're spending 95 or you're spending UPX to get an UPX value. You're not losing out here. It's the same as just minting a random property in the city.
Yep.
These are all fine. They're all exciting. They're a different way of doing it. It's kind of like the stress release without doing the stress release, which is why, you know what, let's just go over there now. When we used to do the stress release, and you've been around longer than I, from a player's point, obviously UPLAND did it to test their systems and see if they can handle the load, all that sort of stuff. But from a player's point of view, what was the number one reason you had to get involved in a stress release?
Yes, to get a launch property for the main release.
Exactly right. Yeah. So if you don't get involved in this bundle property sale now, you don't have the launch property, and you're several steps behind anybody else that's trying to snap up a certain. If you're after a certain area,
key areas,
you need to have a launch property to get your. And now there's a element of, and I can see why people are going to want to buy multiple, because there's an element of luck as to where your property is going to be in relation to where you want to be. So if you're on the wrong side of the city, well, good luck getting your block explorer to stay in a straight line for that distance. I mean, you might work out it's going to take 2 hours to get to the other side, but it won't go in a straight line, and you're out to the mercies of the god. Where if you bowl multiple, you're going to give yourself a better chance to get that launch property that you want, to get the better position. So I think if you want to get seriously involved in the release the next night, you have to get involved in this. Otherwise, you're behind the 8 ball big time.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I like this. Basically, what you're doing here is you're buying a generic Paris collection for under mint.
Well, are you?
No. Well, it says at least the UPX price.
Yes.
At least.
I would suspect, because it's only an UPX to an UPX sale, it'll be extremely close. Like maybe there might be a couple of thousand in it or something like that. I don't think you're going to buy this and end up with like a 200,000 UPX, like a mint price collection.
Well, you've got a chance. There's a chance, Doesn't say what that chance is.
Yeah. So out of 1,000, maybe there's 10 people that get something that is worth double. So who knows? Like, and these sales are cool. I like this idea. It's interesting. I like it. I have no problem with that whatsoever.
The deluxe bundle, of course, you got more chances, better properties, landmarks, 25 extra large properties. Okay. And interesting that they flip from the UPX to USD on that
because they're putting those landmarks up there. So
okay.
The catch grab for the landmarks. And again, I like the idea of this. I like where it's going. There's just not enough information. And what I mean by that, personally, if I'm going to spend $100 in UPLAND, I'm aware that at the moment I can probably buy 3 properties somewhere around the 25 to 30% mint and end up with that sort of value for money. And here, they're not telling us what we're getting. Are we going to get $100,000 properties, 100,000 UPX properties, or are we going to get 200 or 300,000 UPX properties? Tell us what the discount is. Like with all the other bundles that have been cash ones, they've gone at a roughly 30 or 40% discount or 50% or whatever. They haven't said that this time. And if I spent $100, me personally, if I spend $100 and end up with 100,000 UPX mint price, for 3 properties, I'm going to be dirty as hell. Especially if I don't get one of the landmarks, which, mind you, if you get a landmark, it's well over, you're well in front. But
Yeah.
if I ended up assuming for the vast majority of us that do buy it, only going to end up with just 3 standard properties. If that's only 100,000 UPEX price, I'm going to be pretty dirty.
I guess it depends what your motivations are. If you want to launch property, as you said, you pretty much have to go for that.
Yeah,
I've got no interest in a launch property. I want a showroom property, obviously. So
Yeah.
I'm going to I'd rather pay more for something specific that is exactly aligns with what I need than spray and pray. Personally, I'm not playing that game, but I can see the fun and why other people would.
And a shot at a landmark would be awesome. So, like I said, I'm interested in the 100,000 one. I just want to know more information, not the exact specifics, but if they said it's at least under 50% markup or something like that, I'd be like, F yeah, I'm all over this. I want to get that bundle, and that bundle, no doubt, will be pretty accessible to most players around the world because I don't think that's going to sell out fast at all.
No. All right, so we had day one. That kicks off at Wednesday, 9 a.m. PT. They want to be inclusive. They want to get, what did they say? For all Uplanders. Is that what they said? That was the word, wasn't it?
All players. I think.
All players, yeah. So surely they're going to mix it up for the time zone for day 2?
Nope.
No? Official city opening on day 2. We bring you the traditional city opening mechanics for those who love the thrill of researching cities, blah, 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 at 9 a.m. PT.
So back to American time, which why we're not using a neutral time, I don't know. But so basically they're saying it's more accessible, but now you need to be involved in 2 days at the same time. So even if you're
literally making it worse.
Yeah. So even if you're an American at work on a work day or something like that, you now need to make yourself available both. Like let's say you're in New York or the East Coast, so that's 12 o'clock their time. So you need, assuming you can even make sure that you're on a lunch break or something like that during that time, you need to get on the lunch break, register for the sale, get your launch property set, and then do the same again the next day. That's not more accessible for even Americans, let alone people around the world at different time zones. Like I said, and personally, this doesn't affect me at all because 2 a.m. I don't care. I'm a night owl anyway. I'm up to 2, 3 in the morning most nights blendering, so it does not bother me in the slightest for me personally. But I can see this being a problem for people that do have to get up at 6, 7 in the morning to go to their jobs. Having to do this 2 nights in a row, it just
to steel man Upland's case here for a minute, to play devil's advocate, if you want to get a launch property for the second release, that's kind of on the community. That's I can see what Upland's Upland's trying to do something new. So they're like, look, if you can't take part in or even if you don't want to take part in the craziness of the city release, well, here's a different option. So, okay, for that's fair enough. But again, it's the same freaking time.
But that's what I was saying earlier. Like, we're trying a different concept for the release. Happy days, let's try it. Like, I'm interested to see how it goes and how it works. I haven't got an issue with the way what they're doing in terms of having the bundles the day before and having it over the 2 nights. It's the way they've worded this as, for all you people, to me, this is the way I interpret it. And maybe I'm way off base here, but to me, it was like, well, everyone that keeps complaining about not being included and having disadvantages in relation to all this, here's a way we're going to solve it for you. And and I'm looking at this going, no, you haven't solved anything. In fact, you've actually made it worse. So don't try and pass this off as a solution to the problem, because you've doubled down and made it. Now we've got to do it 2 nights in a row as opposed to 1 night in a row. Like,
well, you don't have to. You can choose to. You
can choose. But if you want to, if you really want to be involved in the second night, you need to get your hands on a property the first night. Yeah, you can buy it in a secondary market, maybe pay 150, 200 markup or something like that. And it might be worth doing so, especially depending on where you want to be and where the properties are available. So that might even happen. You might buy a bundle and go, well, I got screwed there. I need something over this side of the town and have to swap or buy something anyway. But that's just the luck of the game, and that's fun. As I said, the whole release part of it, I don't mind. The fact that they're trying to sell it as a more inclusive, it just, no, it's not.
Yeah. All right, so that's that. Mint master badges, that's all good. We know about that. They're holding off some properties because some other stuff in the future. Yep, that's all good. Collections. Now, somebody told me in DM that this was interesting, so let's dive into
Yeah,
this. We are also
this
bringing back a
different.
previous mechanic for revealing collections. Collections for Paris will only be revealed after they have fully minted out. Interesting. So there
Yes,
goes. That froze that whole thing of like that's what I've been doing for the past
collection reveal.
Lord knows how
So
many releases. Yeah.
I have two trains of thoughts on this. So my personal thought is I hate this because I'm the person that will go over for the collection reveal and pick up something there. So my personal opinion is I hate this because it means I'm now either going to have to speculate or wait for
Yep.
6 weeks to find out what the collections are.
Yep.
But from a game point of view, so take that, forget about slightly for a second and think about the whole game as a point of view. This could be I wasn't around. I've never seen this mechanic before, so I don't know what it was like in the past. To me, it seems like they didn't necessarily have this as a mechanic. It was just the way they used to do it. Like when they released a city, they hadn't really thought about what the collections are, and then later on went,
Nah.
"Oh, by the way, we need to have collections." That's I don't. But again, I wasn't around then, so I don't know.
I think it was
As
Manhattan. Manhattan was the one that brought this to the fore, I believe.
okay, so
Yeah.
as a gamer and the playing around with it, like I think it's brilliant. I love them. They're actually turning it into a game, and you've gamifying whether it's going to be a collection or not. And and you look at it from Washington's point of view, like every man and his dog thought downtown was going to be a collection, and it sold out on the night straight away. But it was
Yeah.
super expensive, and it wasn't a collection. And now people are selling it at ridiculously low prices. Like property is right next to the White House. I mean, not that it means a lot that it's right next to the White House, but so people are going to mint that out, wait for the last property to get minted out, and then to find out whether it's a collection or not, and then be disappointed if it's not. And
Yeah. Well, that's going to
I love
happen
it.
regardless.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love this aspect, and it's definitely a new element. I can't wait to see how it unfolds and what it's like, and I'll be watching it closely just to see. It's cool. I like the idea. Personally,
Mm.
I hate it because it means I can't just fly over the week after and get a collection property at a more expensive price. So, but
Yep.
who cares about what I want? I like the fact that the game is more interesting as a result, and I think this could be a really good move.
Yeah, it kind of destroys my personal gameplay, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's well,
It just means we
it's
need
a
to wait 6 weeks now, though. Like they're going to be collections that are revealed at the end of the season that haven't sold out.
yeah,
Only question I have, and I assume Upland have the ability to separate this, but obviously you get the street collections that are also within a neighborhood collection. So if a street that's highly speculated, like Pennsylvania was in Washington, it's going to sell out instantly.
and it'll
I'm
show up on
assuming
the
they can.
property card.
Will the fact that the is also part of a collection in the neighborhood show up on the property card? I'd assume that they can separate those two and only have one show up at a time.
Wow, I
I
well,
would assume.
you would
I would
think,
assume that they've already thought of this and
yeah,
have a solution to that. Because if it shows up that once Pennsylvania Avenue is minted out and holy shit, this neighborhood's also an exclusive neighborhood, then the rest of
yep,
that neighborhood's going to get snapped up in a heartbeat.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I'd assume that they've already figured that out and they've separated it. But overall, like I said, I hate the idea because I like going over the week after and picking up stuff. But I think
yep,
this is a great twist on the game,
yep,
and I think it could be awesome. And I'm going to look forward to. And then ultimately, it means we're just going to have to wait 6 weeks to see what the collections are if we still want to do that. Go over and pick them up afterwards. And I've no doubt some of the maybe exclusive or maybe even some rare neighborhoods might still be available. But there's always something that no one expects. Always.
yeah. Yes. So that's good. It drives FOMO a little bit. Like
Yeah.
that's what happened in Manhattan with the collection speculation that was just rampant. We knew that there was X amount of collections left. Well, what could they possibly be?
See,
So
but Upland
yeah.
have been super vague on collections as well. Even like when they're releasing a part of a city, they'll go, "There's going to be between 4 and 44 collections." So you don't know. So
Yeah, yeah.
you just don't know. Like, and you might have been down to the last neighborhood that's not minted out, and you're like, "Well, we've had
Yeah, yeah.
5 collections. Are they going to do another one or not?" And you won't know until it's minted. And you're like, it gets minted and it's not, and you're like, "Well, can't say I'm
Yeah.
surprised," but like, you're not going to know. Like they said, there's going to be exactly 7 collections, and there's 6 that's been revealed. Well, then everyone's going to be speculating what the last one is, and maybe making a push if they figure it out or something like that. Again, gamifies the whole thing. It's exciting. I like it. as the upland point of view, I'm just not so happy about a Swally point of view, but who cares about Swally? The game, it'll be good for the game, I think.
Yeah, from a business perspective, obviously FOMO drives sales, so that sort of stuff. It makes perfect sense. I like it, and I just like the fact that they're mixing it up, try something different. So that's cool.
Yeah,
Even though,
100%.
as personally, it sucks all the balls. But anyhow, travel to make this launch even more exciting and accessible. Players will be able to travel instantly to Paris
This is not
during
good.
the week. Why not? Starting now, players can effortlessly explore Paris by clicking a button on the right side of the screen. See image below. Okay.
All right,
To
so
be
this is not
instantly
good.
transported.
So this is not good on several levels. Anyone that's tried to buy something from a shop in a different city will know the pain of jumping on a plane, flying over, only for it to be snapped up minutes before you land. So the friction of travel has been in the game for some time. It is part of the game. It is what it is. I mean, there's websites dedicated to showing you routes and travels, stuff like that. Not to mention that there's people that own terminals and other things that you're now not going to be sending to. Like for me to go from Washington from Washington to Paris, I would have to send to the train station. So there's obviously a bunch of people that own those train stations. Then send to the airport. So I'm costing 2 cents and 20 odd UPX or 30 UPX or whatever it is each. And then the cost of the flight with the friction of it's going to take me 40 minutes or an hour or whatever it is to get over there, which is just what the game is. And all of a sudden we're going, oh, you can just click a button, bypass all that, save your cents, which as a treasure hunter, I'm not against saving cents. But if I own, and I don't own a terminal, so again, I'm not saying this because I'm butthurt about not receiving the benefits of this. I don't own a terminal, never have, never been anywhere close to getting one because I'm always 7 millionth in line. But if I did own a terminal, I'd be pretty dirty because chances are you're going to miss out on this in terms of the slight boost that you might get. And in the past, when they haven't released terminals before released, Upland have like compensated those who end up with a terminal with all the fees that have come out of it. But we're talking about terminals across the whole planet, across the whole globe. So is there a way they can figure out where people have come from and which terminal they would have used to get from Washington to Paris or wherever you're based or San Francisco, wherever they are? Like, there's a lot of players from various places around the globe of different cities. I'd be pretty upset if I'm missing out on a little bit of revenue as a result of, I mean, again, it's not me personally. I don't own any, so I've got nothing to lose. I just don't think it's a good move. Why bring this in now? Like, why change it up? Like people have said, like the finger of God type. Like, we didn't need it. I don't think the game needed this.
Yeah, it's an aspect I didn't think of when I first read that. Yeah, you're right. That's
we know there's a city coming up. We know it takes an hour and a half or wherever time it takes to get there. Plan ahead, organize it, do it. Like, it's why all of a sudden do we need to have a button that instantly transports us there?
And there's an interesting. Hang on. They didn't say new players. Okay, so I was gonna think if they said to make this launch more accessible for new players. Well, then I was going to say, well, hang on a minute. Didn't you say for the longest time that city releases aren't for new players?
But even if they did, then what, you're charging a new player 1,500 UPX to get over there just so they can participate in something where they don't really know what they're doing? Like, no, if you're going to make it... Okay, if you were to say Uplanders or maybe pros or something like that doing this, and giving them a button to get over there because they don't really know what they're doing and they're new to the game and maybe a cost-free way of getting there to participate, I'd be fine with that. But we're not, like, if you and I are competing to try and min stuff, we're not competing against a pro or an Uplander because our bank balance is slightly bigger than this. So I'm not too worried about a bunch of lower accounts that are still in the thunder, so to speak, because it's just not going to happen. So if they were trying to help new or younger players or lower accounts, happy days, like, bring it on. But for an established player, it's an unnecessary addition to the game. I just don't think it was necessary.
Well, it goes against everything that this was heading towards. Like, I thought we were moving away from teleportation.
What's the point of just bringing planes in the game?
Cars and planes and trains and buses and boats and everything that's going to come. Yeah. So
Why change it? I
What?
just don't think they
Ooh,
needed to change it. And this
yeah,
comes back to, like, we've got this voting system. Why aren't Upland using this and go, what do you think about this idea? Like, they've asked
yep,
the community to provide information about how we can make things better or different things. Like, we don't get any feedback as to whether they listen to any of that or have any thoughts. But if they've come up with half a dozen different things I think that's good, why not throw that out to the whole community and go, which of these you think would work and which ones don't you? You don't have to
yep,
vote if you don't want to, but it's there. If you actually care, don't offer any advantages like any bonuses or prizes for voting. Just vote because you want to vote because you care about the game.
yeah,
We've got the voting mechanics. Let Upland have a say. Like, doesn't mean Upland have to do it, but let them have a say. And if they put this to a vote, what do you think about having a mechanic for a city release where you can instantly put there? Sure, some people are going to say yes, but I think it would. I think it would lose a vote. I think most Uplanders would
well,
say,
yeah, absolutely. What's the point of this? It says here we're thrilled to announce. Where did it say this? Yeah, make it more exciting and accessible for players to instantly be able to travel. But I mean, if you're going to Paris and you can't afford the 1,500
well,
transportation
it's
cost,
probably, depending on where you are in the world, it's probably cheaper to take normal transport than to teleport anyway.
yeah,
It would
where am
appear
I?
that
San
looking at
Francisco,
that, I hadn't looked at this, but looking at the American
2,300.
cities.
Mm.
So if you're going to go there, yeah, but looking at that, you can save yourself a couple of upics and a couple of cents by doing the
Yeah, but
teleportation.
the
But
UPEX that you're saving, part of that, as you said, is being taken away from the community,
exactly
which
right.
is that's pretty
I mean,
dodge.
well, the flight fees go to Upland, but the
Yeah,
terminal
the
fees obviously
terminal
the
fees.
community. So I mean, there's 50
Yeah,
upics that 2 terminals in Washington aren't going to get from me if I use this
yeah.
option. So, and I'm just one of 20, 30,000 people. So.
All right. City opening collector's pass. Okay, this is pretty. We know all about this, don't we? Yep.
Yeah,
So
the passes
nothing new.
again. For some reason they always knock the ball out of the park with these passes. They
Yeah, it
look
looks pretty cool.
amazing. I almost want to buy one just to have one I've resisted the FOMO of that in the last couple of the cities, but they're pretty
Yep.
cool. I don't think these are different to the season passes they use to burn to get the NFT. Again, won't go there.
Yep.
I don't know that they're ever going to have any use case for these in the future, but then again, they could surprise us. But they do look pretty cool.
Yep. And then, of course, unique building models. No surprise, that's been a feature of the latest city releases as well.
What do you think of these?
I mean that at the onset, looking at that, at least that looks like Paris. Not that I've ever been there and know what it
I
is.
have. I was there last year.
I'd say it's a bit too close to the existing townhouse structure.
Keep looking at the others. There's like 6 of them.
Oh yeah, that's a country cottage one. Yeah, no, they're cool.
What about those?
That one's freaking terrible.
That's
What
my
the
point.
hell is that? That looks
That's
like
a-
that bloody. That's the storage pod I just
Okay,
bought and put in the side of my house.
I've been doing Blender for 3-4 weeks now. I could knock that out, something very similar to that, in about an hour.
Yeah,
that's
that's
I saw
comical.
that one specifically and just went, really? That's the best they could do? Like, there is a plethora of creators in Upland who could have done so much better. Obviously, DTech's a bit busy at the moment, but there are so many other creators like Manu and the Shack and so many other quality creators. Toss said, like the list goes on and on and on. I mean, I think you interviewed one earlier today that can create this sort of stuff. Like,
Yes.
the list goes on and on and on. And people within the community that could create some interesting looking stuff. And I won't be I won't be building any of these.
Yeah, well, it goes back to something that I've been saying for the longest time is all of these key major events, obviously they're not done at the last minute because there's planning involved, but it always feels like everything's done in a hurry. It's rushed, it's last minute. Like, why couldn't we have had a Paris unique building structure community competition or something?
Exactly right. And even have 6
A
different people
month
win.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, or more.
Well, I would argue that not only was Paris not a last minute thought, I would argue that Paris was the plan if they'd won the World Cup. And
Yeah,
they would have
or
had
it was
plans and had it started
probably.
to be mapped out
Yeah.
12 months ago.
Yeah. And it would have been part of the earliest conversations with the sandbox and whatnot. So
yeah. So
or even even it was announced at Genesis Week that Paris was coming. Well,
That's still 6 weeks ago, yeah.
make the conversation that, okay, start getting your designs ready because we're going to have a competition or something. Yeah,
Thing is, the prizes, in my opinion, the prizes don't need to be too massive for these sort of. I mean, there's more and more creators coming into the game, learning Blender and all that sort of stuff as it is.
Yep.
D-Tech and these guys can't do everything. They've got their own things to do
Exactly
as well. They
right.
can't participate in all of them. The
Yep.
prizes don't. I mean, the fact that I might be able to design something and have it put in the city and then have other people build it, it's almost enough for me to want to do it in the first place.
Yeah.
Regardless of any maybe Spark reward or UpX reward or getting a property or something like that, which they could do as a throwing a bone out there. A couple of those are right. I don't mind the yellow one. That one's not too bad. The
okay.
one next to it's okay. Those last two I find both look boring and just.
Well, this last one, that's just hilarious.
But which is a micro house, I'm assuming, and then the one next to it is like a small townhouse or version 2 or something.
Yeah.
But it's just a white rectangle. Like I don't know.
All right, Paris Sweetener sale. What would a city release be without a special block explorer sale? Okay, so you buy your UpX, get a block explorer. Yep. Okay, all good with those. Dreamscape package.
Cool.
What's this? 50,000 UPX. Okay, and
they look. Those two look amazing, and then you got these two, and I'm like,
the curlers and the picnic basket with the macaroons. Yeah, no, that's cool.
The value comes in the fact that there's only 35 of each as opposed to 200 or whatever the other one is.
Yeah, but look at the bloody date and look at the time. Look at the time on it.
Again, let's move on from that. I think we've discussed enough of that at the moment. But again, that could be split over 3 different time zones. But anyway,
yes, that's what it is.
Terminals. Well, we all know. I have a theory. I have a theory on how we queue up for these terminal sales too. Like, I honestly think there should be like a master list of registering for terminal sales that carry over from city release to city release of all terminals, where you register, you're in a queue, you might be 5,000th in queue, which means you're not going to get one anytime soon. But eventually you'll work your way up the top of that queue and be in the top 10 or 20, which means you will get one in the next city, which gives you time to prepare and buy. Gives you time to prepare and buy. You don't know what the next 3 cities are, so I think it gives you a chance to, like, that another city's coming up. You're number 10 in the queue, so you're going to get an opportunity. So you prepare to get enough UpX or dollars or whatever it is that you need to buy if you really want to do it. And I think you get 3 opportunities. So even if you're like 10 to 20, and you still got a chance because someone higher up in the queue might go, no, this one's not for me. I'll wait for the next city. But you get 3 opportunities without knowing what the next 3 cities are. And if you pass on all 3, well, then you're back to the back of the queue. This way you don't have same players who might get super lucky and just happen to register and pick up, which I'm not suggesting happens.
Always happens. It does happen.
Okay, well, so I think it's a much fairer way to having like a master queue. You get 3 opportunities. Once, if you buy it, then you're back to the back of the queue, like re-register, reline up, so to speak. If you don't and you pass 3 times, or you don't take up the opportunity 3 times because you haven't logged into the game for 3 passes, you're out.
You're out.
And then you just slowly move up the queue. Not everyone can, like, people might register, and by the time they get to the top of the queue, they might not be able to afford it. They might not have the funds that they need because they aren't cheap. So
no.
Or they might change their mind and go, terminal owners are getting screwed by teleporting across the planet. So what's the point in doing it? So I choose not to do it anymore. But at least that's a choice you have, rather than, I mean, how many players have said they've been playing this game for how many years and not come close to buying a terminal?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's frustrating. Like, the closest I've come is I was 20th in line for a Heathrow International terminal. And I looked at that, and with my missus being English and from not too far from there, we were pretty keen. Like, we thought, okay, there might actually be a chance here. There's only 10 of them, but I was 20th in line. So I'm like, maybe I've got a chance. I don't even think 11th spot got a chance.
Yeah.
Like that was the first time I've gone, hang on, I might have a chance here. So it is what it is. I'm not like I was crying over spilt milk that I didn't get one, because I just wasn't lucky enough, and I haven't been yet. But I just think there needs to be a fairer way of doing it. And to me, that why they can't come up with some system that is fairer for all. That's just my suggestion anyway.
Well, I listen to the Meat Eater podcast, and that's an American thing, and they're always talking about hunting tags and this, that, and the other thing. And there's I'll get the details wrong, of course, the finer details. But basically, if you have a high value hunt, like some kind of sheep that's rare, and they only give out a certain amount of tags every year, if you register for that tag every year that you register for it, it puts you more entries in for the registry or something like that. And it's a one and done thing. Once you've got your tag, whether you get one or not, apparently that's it. You're done. So yeah. Some kind of mechanics like that would, I think that'd be a good addition. That's a pretty good suggestion.
Just a queue, just let's have a queue, and you just cycle through it. Give everybody a fair chance at the queue. Not everyone can afford it, and also you get a heads up that you're pretty high on the queue. Your chance to buy something's coming up soon. You might get your ducks in a row and fork out the $1,500 or something like that you need to buy something, as opposed to last minute I've got to find within 24 hours I've got to find $1,500. Which I'm sure people have not been able to do at the time.
Yes. All right. So what do we got? Initial launch properties, 23,000. I expect a fair percentage of those will get gobbled up. Minimum price 5,544.
Well,
average price 60,000. Max price 3.2 mil.
Well, when you say a fair, I mean, they're saying it's right there. So 25% cheaper than London. London was super expensive, so this isn't going to be super cheap.
Yeah,
23,000 isn't a small amount of number given with the recent releases, and we're not super cheap. It's not going to sell out. It's not going to sell out. I don't think it'll sell out in the season. I think there'll still be mintable properties by the end of the sizzle season. Depending on speculation of collections and stuff like that, because it's just too expensive. If it was, which probably fair enough, is expensive given it's one of the most famous cities in the world. So I haven't got a problem with that whatsoever. But yeah, I don't think it's going to sell out in a hurry.
All right, and then there's some details on that St. Denis place as well. So non-vanilla mode for that one.
So tier 5,
Yeah. All right, so that's pretty cool. It's a historic moment in Upland. Yes. All right. So, well, I guess with all that being... What's that, sorry?
Referencing the games again.
Yeah.
I'm surprised by it, but anyway, it is... They know what they're doing.
It is what it is. So with all that being said, what's your plans? What's your plan for Paris?
I've been thinking about this all day. I was just talking to the missus. Again, she's from that side of the world, so she's keen to go over there and buy some stuff. She hasn't got a huge bank balance, but she's got about 300,000 up. So I think I'm gonna have to wake her up so she can participate. Personally, I honestly don't know. The FOMO of a city release sort of wore off on me a few cities ago. When I first started the game, I was like, I hear established players go, they don't participate in city releases anymore. I'm like, what? That's the best part of Upland. Like, what do you mean you don't do city release? That's the fun bit. That's where you see if you can snag yourself a good collection. Or like, how can you not be? And now I'm like, I get it now. I get why the FOMO of a city release just doesn't make sense. There'll be different reasons why you might want to get involved in or something like that. The only thing that makes me want to do a city release is I'm yet to mint a ultra rare collection, or at least one ultra rare property. So I'd like to be able to say I've at least minted one, because obviously they're super hard to get a hold of. That little ticking a box, which is ticking a box to be fair, is something that does interest me. My recent approach to this is to go over there with like a street in mind, a target to go for that people think might be a collection. If it misses collection, you got your 3 properties for the city. That's probably where I'm going to be at. I'm interested in these bundle sales the day before, because I think you need to have that for a launch property if you want to try and go after your ultra rare or what you think might be an ultra rare or even a rare or something like that. I think if you don't get that bundle or a property somewhere, I think you're behind the 8 ball and at the mercies of the god. I'm not saying you're pointless in trying, but you just have a disadvantage compared to everyone else that does. So I'll probably get involved. I'll probably go over there. I'm not going to be spending anywhere near my full bank balance. I can tell you that much for sure.
Yes, I've got. Well, by the time it releases, I'll have 2 mil.
Yeah, same.
I will more than. I've got I've got more tattoo appointments I want to pay for, so I'll probably do the same play I did in Bermuda. I'll
get you one.
mint up a whole bunch.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And flip them for USD on the other side. I do want one decent sized showroom property, so yeah, I'll be skipping all the bundle stuff. I don't like the randomness of that personally. I will go into the city release and see what I can get.
Yeah, so if you're not going to be targeting like an ultra rare or something like that, like having
No.
a specific collection that you're after, then yeah, you
Yep.
don't need a bundle sale, something like that. But if you're a player that wants to try and target a certain area of the city for different reasons, it might not be a collection. You might just want a particular property or something like that.
Yep.
If you don't have that launch pad for yourself that you can get your block explorer in the right direction, you're behind the 8 ball and you're going to struggle to get exactly what you want. And you're up to the mercies of the god as to where you end up being, which again is just the way it's been. So, we're back to the old stress test almost, where you get yourself a property so you can try and head down the direction that you get. I mean, that was my introduction to the game, watching players like Mark Ferguson send back to the same property 484,000 times just to get it to go in that right direction. I'm like, what's he bloody doing? Why is he spending so much time? I get it, obviously, now. So we're back to those days because we haven't had that for some time now. So I'm not against that. I like the idea. It gives everyone more opportunity to target what they're specifically after, which I thought Upland were trying to get away from, but we're back to giving that opportunity to players again. So, each to their own. All
right. So we've run a bit longer than we were planning. I know you got to get to work. Do you want to hang around for this wheel roll, or do you want to blitz?
I've got 5-10 minutes here.
Yes,
let's
all right. I forgot to spin a wheel the other night for the Upland Down Under podcast for the 5 mystery map assets pack. So I put everybody's name who didn't win a prize back on the wheel and going to do that tonight. So you're in for a chance here as well because your name is on the list. So pretty much that's what it is.
Please don't give it to me then. That'll seem dodgy as shit if I won this one.
Be funny if it is.
No, it's not.
Oh, TikTok land? No,
Mantle.
I'll have to write that. Mantle. M3.
Mental. No, mental. Mental.
Yeah. It's a bit like Caesar's name.
No, that's a bit it. Caesar's is a little bit more, a little bit harder to decipher, I think. Once you know it, it's like, oh yeah, of course, it makes sense now. But that one, I think, just realize the 3's backwards and the 4's an A. It's not too bad.
All right. Yes. So I'll get that out to you very soon, Mantle. And for everybody that didn't win a prize the other night, I'll see where I go tonight. I'll try and get it out tonight. Definitely those big prizes will be pushed out before Paris release. So you got a few extra funds there. Thanks, Swally, for jumping in to have a chat about that one. It seems to be this one because it seems to be the way. As soon as we get done recording, you wake up and there's all this extra fresh.
I saw that. I was still awake when they released it. And I was like, typical. Like the Thursday night, it's a good time slot, but it just seems to be like the minutes before they release stuff week after week. And it's just the way it is. Like, you can't help it. It's not always the case. So it does change from time to time. But I guess my summary or takedown of this whole thing is, what do they mean by more exclusive, more inclusive for all players? That's the bit I take umbrage the most about, because I think if that's what they're aiming for, well, they had a big swing and miss. I think they got it absolutely wrong. If I'm way off base with what I'm thinking and they had a different mindset, I'd love for them to somehow explain it a little bit better as to what they were trying to achieve, because I don't think they achieved anything. I think they took a step backwards.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot there that kind of got me scratching my head, but I like that they're mixing it up, trying something new.
I love it. If we took out that part of it and just went, here's a new city, we're going to try these different mechanics. We're not going to try and be more inclusive. We're just going to do it as normal. But this is what we got. I'm looking at going, sweet, we've got all these different ideas, different concepts. Some might work, some might not. We obviously had the map asset one in Washington. Didn't quite work because apparently it slowed everything down. So they tried something, didn't work. Happy days, we'll move on, try something different this time. All for that. But to say it's more inclusive, it's not. It's less inclusive. It's harder for everybody now to get involved in it all. So I just don't get it. I just would love to understand what their mindset there. And that coming off a week where I've been just absolutely singing their praises about how good they've done.
You have,
how the global implications of what they've done in their announcements over the last week, while sucks for certain people that can't access certain things, it's been absolutely brilliant for the game long term down the track. Maybe not at the minute, but long term, I think it's going to be massively good for the game. And then five minutes later, they release something that just scratches my head and go,
What?
I don't take it all back because all that stuff still stands. But I'm like,
Yep.
I thought maybe we had moved to a new era or a step forward where Upland themselves are going to start thinking more globally. And I went, no, we're not. We're back to where we were.
2 steps backwards and 1 steps forwards. I don't think that's how it's supposed to go, but that's what we got. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Best of luck to everybody who's getting involved. And don't forget, if you'd like to catch us live and be involved in what we do every Thursday night, we kick off at 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Links in the description and whatnot. All right. With that, we shall catch you